Lisa. Today we are going to be starting something that I know a lot of you have looked forward to. We are actually going to start talking about crochet. So a lot of us already crochet, and there have been several people that have expressed interest in learning to crochet, and so I'm going to start a series of videos about learning to crochet. And so today we're going to cover two of the basic things. We're going to cover different types of crochet hooks, and we're going to cover a couple of different types of yarn. And what I want to do is I want to start this series this way so that you guys are able to have some time to go and pick up some basic tools that you would need to start if you're interested. And what I would like to do, my goal for this series is to eventually get us to the point where we can have what's called a crochet along, where we are all making the same blanket in whatever your choice of colors is. So I'm hoping that by about maybe July or August, you guys would be ready to start making a blanket with the stitches that I teach you and the different tutorials that we have. And then by the time we get done with a blanket in a couple of months, then we will have a finished blanket by the time it gets cold for some of us. Some of you get cold much earlier than I do down here in Texas, so you'll have to kind of bear with me on the timeline, and that timeline is very flexible. So I really hope you guys enjoy this. I will say we're having another thunderstorm, so you may hear thunder, you may hear some rain, and different things like that. So please, I hope you just like the ambient noise of a storm. So today we're going to start out with the most basic type of crochet hook, and that's going to be one that looks like this. This is an aluminum crochet hook. These are by far the cheapest ones that you can find. They come in a variety of sizes. The most common sizes are going to be an H hook, which is a 5mm hook, and an I hook, which is a 5.5mm hook. And these will be the two sizes that we're going to use to create the blanket based on the type of yarn. So the different sizes of crochet hooks, you can go from very, very small ones, which are more for tatting and making lace and different things like that, to the very, very large ones, which would make some of the really large blankets and things like you see on Pinterest. So the way to look at a crochet hook, like I said, this is just a basic crochet hook. I think this cost me about $1 at Walmart. This was one of the first that I purchased when I first learned to crochet. And I'm hoping that you can see, if I get it in the frame, there, it tells you that it is an H, and it tells you how many millimeters that it is. And every hook will have that on it somewhere. So it may vary a little bit between different brands and things like that. This is a 5.5mm hook, and it is an I sized hook, but for the most part they're going to be pretty universal. So if you don't have any problems with gripping, if you don't have any problems with anything like that, you can probably go for this cheaper hook like this and do just fine. If you're on a budget, this is a good option. So that's your first option there. Now, when I started crocheting, and the more that I got into it, the more that I realized that this hook was not very comfortable to hold after a long time for me. So I ended up getting one like this. So as you can see, this is still a aluminum crochet hook. This one is also aluminum, if I didn't say. This is an aluminum crochet hook, but it's got a bamboo handle on it that's a little bit bigger, and it's a little bit easier to grip for a longer period of time. This one is an H crochet hook, which is a 5mm crochet hook, and this one is a different brand from the previous one. I hope you guys can see that. So this one is a different brand, so you are going to get a little bit of interference. Now these go in alphabetical order from your smallest crochet hook up. So if I say this is an H, I know that this H is going to be smaller millimeter wise than the I. And I don't know if you guys can see that. There's not a whole lot of difference, but there is a difference there. So this is the second type that I purchased. I liked this one. However, there are two types of hooks on the end here. I don't know if you guys can see this. This one has more of a gentle curve to it. There you can kind of see on the hook part. And this one is a lot sharper. Can I get you? There we go. So this one is a little bit sharper of a hook. It's got more of an angle here. To me, I really didn't notice a difference. I do notice on this one tends to catch the yarn a little bit more. That's not a bad thing. A lot of people prefer these. I think they're called inline crochet hooks. Some people really prefer these. To me, it just wasn't to my taste. It worked for a little while, but I went ahead and decided to move on. Now, if you have problems with your hands and you need more of an ergonomic option, then you can get one like this that's got the ergonomic handle on it. This is a rubber handle here. You can see that the writing is down here on the hook. So this is an eye hook. It's a 5.25 millimeter. Now you'll remember I said this is an eye hook and it's a 5.5 millimeter. This is the difference that I was saying between different brands. You may get a little bit of variance. It really is not going to matter. So this is my favorite hook. This came from Walmart. It is a Boye brand, B-O-Y-E brand crochet hook, and I think it was about $3. So you guys, these hooks, you can get very expensive ones, but for the most part, what you're going to have available to purchase at your Michaels, at your Walmarts, at your Joann's, and places like that where you're more than likely to go look for them, even on Amazon, are not going to be very expensive. So like I said, I paid, I think, about $1 for this one. I think this one was about $2 or so. And then, like I said, I paid about $3 for this one. This is the one that I use the most often. So like I said, it's my favorite one. It's a size for the yarn type that I use, which we'll discuss later, that is the most common. And to me, this is a super comfortable, it does have a flat grip here. I don't know if you can kind of see that. It's flat here, even though it's round here. So I hold my hook this way. Now, I was not taught with somebody in the room to show me how to crochet. So this is the way that was the most comfortable for me. And I tend to slide my hook back and forth like this in my hand to help reduce the wrist motion that a lot of people use. Some people hold their hook like this, more like a pin, and kind of go like this. There's many different ways, and we'll talk about these more probably next week. There's not really a right way that I know of to hold your crochet hook. I would say to find what is the most comfortable for you and to go with it. So anyway, getting back to the hook, there goes a tangent again. Like I said, this is my favorite hook. It's very inexpensive at $3. And I did find this at Walmart. There's some other types that also have this ergonomic handle on it. I really liked this one because it's rubber. So there's that one. Here's another option. This is a much larger hook. This is an L hook, and it's an 8 millimeter. It is the same brand as this one. As you can see, you can definitely see the difference on these two here, the difference in millimeters, the diameter. And that's what the millimeter is measuring, is this diameter here of how far around the hook there that it goes. So this is another option that I have. I got this for one project, I believe, that I needed a larger hook for, and that's really all that I've ever used it for, was a larger project. Now, if you have problems, if you have carpal tunnel, if you have, lots of arthritis and things in your hand, you may find a plastic hook easier. These are definitely heavier hooks than the plastic ones are. So this will take a little bit of weight out of your hand. So the difference is, if you have like a pin for DP, for example, if you have a pin like this, it's going to be heavier than your normal pink pin that comes with a kit. And that's kind of the difference between these two hooks. It would be the difference between a pin like this and the regular pink pin or clear pin like this. That's kind of the difference in weight. You don't really notice it. You notice it at first, but you don't really notice it continuing on. So a plastic hook like this is a large one. I believe this is like an N hook or something. It does have that head on it. Up here it's a little tighter, more of the inline, and you know, it's just one size all the way around. It's plastic, it's easier to hold, and it's very much lighter, and that does tend to help some people with their wrists and with their arthritis in their hands. So they've got different sizes in these as well. They may be a little more difficult to track down, but I know that I've seen them places like Hobby Lobby and Michael's and things like that. So you might go for that option if you do have wrist or hand problems. So that's going to cover the most basic type of hooks that you're probably going to find in a store. And they're fairly inexpensive. I personally, if you're getting something along these lines, I would not pay more than $5 for them to make sure that you're getting a good deal. And of course, you know, if you're somewhere at Joann's or Michael's or something like that, always use your coupons to get the price taken off. So you might be able to get these for even cheaper. So that is our basic hooks. So part of your homework this week, if you are going to follow along with the tutorials and learn to crochet, and I do hope that some of you enjoy this and learn to do this with me, it is a fantastic craft, is to get yourself the hook of your choice, one hook. I would suggest an eye, so anywhere between a 5mm and a 5.5mm hook would be my suggestion. Those are going to be the ones that we use the most. So what I would like you to do before next Tuesday is to get a crochet hook of your choice between a 5mm and a 5.5mm, so that we can start learning to actually crochet next week. So that is this here, the different choices that you have. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below and I will do my best to answer them. I will also try to link a couple of different options, maybe from Amazon, Michael's, Hobby Lobby, possibly Walmart if I can find them on their website. That's not the most user-friendly website, so that you guys can just click straight in and see where I got these. So that is our hooks there. And again, if you have any questions, let me know. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is yarn. Now the yarn that I use the most is this brand here. This is the Red Heart yarn, and this is the Super Saver. This is an acrylic yarn. I don't tend to use wool or alpaca or different things like that. I have used it for certain projects before, but when I'm making a blanket, this is the most common yarn that I use for a couple of different reasons. One, this is the most common yarn to find places. So you can buy this at Walmart, you can buy it at Michael's. All of your various craft stores are going to have Red Heart yarn. But for those of you that don't have access to a craft store, you can also find this at Walmart, and almost everybody has access to one of those, whether you prefer to shop there or not. This will probably be the yarn, maybe not this color, but this will probably be the brand that I do use once we start doing our tutorials. And once we start making our blanket, more than likely I will use this brand of yarn or something very similar. So when you find a yarn that you like, there's a couple of things that you want to look at on your labels. So first, on your label, it's going to give you lots of different information. So on the label here, and I'm really hoping you guys can see this, if you look right here, it tells you how many ounces and grams that this ball has, and then of course that's your net weight. So these Red Heart balls of yarn, the Super Savers, are 7 ounces of yarn. Over here on this side, and I'm really not sure how good you guys are seeing these, I'm hoping that you are seeing this. There's your net weight there, 7 ounces. And then on this side, it's going to tell you how many yards of yarn are in this particular ball. So these Red Heart yarns typically have 364 yards. You can get the larger balls Some brands call them 1 pound. Some brands call them, you know, jumbo or different things like that. And they're going to have a higher yardage and a higher net weight on them when you get those. So those are the first two things that you want to look for. You'll find that there are going to be other brands, and even this brand here, in different types of yarn that they have, and different colors, like maybe the variegated color, the ones that change color in the actual yarn. They're going to have less yardage in the ball. So this is going to become important later when you're trying to figure out how much yarn you're going to need for a project. This is when this is going to come in handy. The next thing you're going to find on your yarn is there's going to be a recommended hook size and a recommended size for your knitting needles if you choose to knit. So you can see on this one right here, this is for this particular pattern. That's the other cool thing that the Red Heart has, is they always include a pattern on the back of their labels. And you can see for this particular pattern right here, it's telling you to get a 5mm crochet hook to make this hat. So that's something else that you get with the Red Heart yarns. They do support the Red Cross, is another thing that I like buying them for. So the really cool thing, one of the really cool things I love about the Red Heart yarn is it tells you which end of the ball to pull to get either a center pull of the yarn or to pull from the outside of the skein. I prefer pulling from the center. So on the Red Heart, you can see this right here tells you if you pull from this side, this loose piece here, that's going to pull from the outside of the yarn. And if you pull from this side over here, that's going to be a center pull. So you can see that piece of yarn sticking out there. If I start pulling this out, it's going to pull from the center of the yarn. And then it's a little bit easier. You can kind of just stuff it back in for whatever you don't use. So that's one thing. Every brand will have this, but not every brand will tell you which side to pull from. So every brand has a center pull, and you just have to kind of dig around in there and find it. And I could make lots of dirty jokes, and we do quite often if you really want to go there. The other thing that's really important when you're looking at different types of yarn is you're going to have different weights of yarn. So size 4 is going to be a medium weight yarn. This is the type of yarn that we're going to use. You can get whatever brand, whatever color you want to start your project and to start practicing, but it needs to be a number 4 medium weight yarn. When you start looking at different yarns, you might find like a baby yarn. Those are going to be a lighter weight yarn, and so those will be like a 3. You're going to have your sport yarns, which will be lighter weight yarns, and then you're going to go into your heavier yarns, which are going to be ones that say chunky, you know, and different things like that. Those are going to be heavier weight. They're going to be super bulky, different things like that. They'll kind of give you clues on the label as to what type they are, but what type of yarn they are. But what you're going to look for is a number 4 weight medium, number 4 medium weight yarn. On the back here, it also gives you the recommended crochet hook size and the recommended size for knitting needles. And just underneath that, it's going to tell you what kind of fabric or what kind of material this is made out of. Now, this Red Heart yarn is 100% acrylic yarn. Some people don't like acrylic yarn, they prefer a natural yarn, but this is going to be the most cost efficient type of yarn, and you're going to be able to find this in a lot of colors. And so every blanket that I've ever made has been made out of acrylic yarn, and I have not had any complaints or anything like that. So, and then of course it tells you on the label how to take care of it. You can wash it, you can dry it on low. You don't ever dry your acrylic yarn really high. Don't iron it. I don't know what that symbol actually means. So if somebody does, let me know. It's a triangle with some lines through it. So typically what I do with my yarns when I'm ready, if I made a blanket and I'm ready to wash it, is I'll wash it in cold water, and then I will lay it flat to dry, or I'll put it in the dryer on like a fluff cycle. So something that's not very hot, a delicate cycle, and let it get almost dry, and then take it out and lay it flat. that's just the way that I take care of my projects. You can do more research, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more. So this is the other part of your homework for the week is you'll need to buy yourself one skein of yarn. And so this right here is called a skein of yarn, or some people might call it a ball of yarn. But this is one skein of yarn, and I may be saying that wrong too. That's the way I've always heard it pronounced. You may pronounce it skein. You may not, you may call it something completely different. It doesn't really matter. Get yourself some yarn, whatever color you want, whatever brand you want. Just make sure it's the number 4 weight, and find yourself a sized crochet hook. And then when we come back next Tuesday, I'm going to teach you guys how to create a slip knot, which is how you start a project, and then how to chain, which is going to be one of your basic steps that you'll need to know. It's super easy, so don't get, you know, too worked up about it. And then as well, how to do a single crochet stitch. And then the week following that, we're going to learn how to do a half double crochet, a double crochet, and possibly a triple or treble crochet. So that's what the next 3 weeks are going to look like. And then from there, we're going to start making some smaller projects, things that you guys can do in the space of a week that don't take a long time, but will help you learn that muscle memory that you're going to need to be able to do a blanket. And we're just going to kind of work our way up. I know there's been a request put in for like a beanie type hat. We can work on that. And I've got possibly some dishcloths and different things like that. So find yourself some yarn, find yourself a hook, and meet me back here next Tuesday. And if you guys have any questions, if you have any requests, things that you want to work on, projects that you would like to do, please drop it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like this. So give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And you guys, I hope you have a good week. And remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to do things. Bye.